What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB World Series, Sunday, October 25th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, MLB World Series. Let's take a look at this MLB Showdown between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, so looking at the pitcher position, I like Clayton Kershaw pitching against the Tampa Bay Rays. Clayton Kershaw, he's giving up a .643 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. He's also giving up a .639 OPS versus lefties. He's facing 3 lefties here tonight. Now the splits for Clayton Kershaw don't matter too much because he pitches really well to both hands, and he's an exceptional pitcher versus switch hitters, only giving up a .453 OPS versus switch hitters, and he's facing 1 switch hitter here tonight. On top of that, the Rays have only hit 7 of his last 51 pitches. That's a 137 batting average. He's $11,600 DraftKings salary and the same price on FanDuel. He has an ERA of 2.16. His record is 6-2 on the season, pitching an average of 89 pitches per game. He's scoring an average of 22 DraftKings points per game on the season, and he scored 30, 7, and 20 DraftKings points in the last 3 games. Projected at 18.6 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Clayton Kershaw here versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher position. I like Will Smith with a 39% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Will Smith is batting 25% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a 1.024 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 13% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .663 OPS versus righties. Will Smith is 1 for 3 with a .666 OPS versus Glasnow. He's $8,200 DraftKings salary and $2,000 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 2, 14, and 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.4 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Will Smith here versus Tyler Glasnow. Okay, who do we have at the first base position? I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Yandy Diaz with an 11% batting advantage over Clayton Kershaw. Yandy Diaz is batting 10% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a .872 OPS versus lefties. And Clayton Kershaw, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .643 OPS versus righties. Yandy Diaz is 1 for 3 with a .666 OPS versus Kershaw. He's only $5,000 DraftKings salary and $500 more on FanDuel, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 2, 5, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Yandy Diaz here versus Clayton Kershaw. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Chris Taylor with an 18% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Chris Taylor is batting 5% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .818 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .663 OPS versus righties. Chris Taylor is 2 for 3 with a .667 batting average and a 1.467 OPS versus Glasnow. It's a small sample size, but it's a pretty good start, and Chris Taylor is only $7,800 DraftKings salary and $1,000 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 7, 0, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Chris Taylor here versus Tyler Glasnow. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. So it's looking like we're going to be doing a Dodgers stack here tonight. They lost a close game yesterday. I think they bounce back, and I think they win here tonight. So at the third base position, I like Justin Turner with a 17% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Justin Turner is batting 4% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .872 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow, we know he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters. Justin Turner is 0 for 3 versus Glasnow, so I feel like he's due for a hit here. Plus, he's been on fire. He only averages 8 fantasy points per game on the season, but he scored 27, 21, and 5 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 8.1 fantasy points here tonight. So I'm going to ride the hot hand here. So I like Justin Turner here versus Tyler Glasnow.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Willy Adames batting against Clayton Kershaw. Willy Adames, he bats a .784 OPS versus lefties. And Clayton Kershaw throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .643 OPS versus righties. Now, Willy Adames is 0 for 4 versus Kershaw, but he's only $6,800 DraftKings salary and $1,500 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 3, 7, and 5 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 9.3 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Willy Adames here versus Clayton Kershaw. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. So I gave you the value plays that I would play from the Tampa Bay Rays because I want to stack these Los Angeles Dodgers. So my first guy that I want to get into my lineup, probably my favorite pick here tonight, is Mookie Betts with a 45% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Mookie Betts bats 32% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a 1.004 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow, we know he throws his worst ball versus righty batters. And Mookie Betts is 5 for 14, batting a .357 batting average and a .971 OPS versus Glasnow. Mookie Betts is averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 0, 18, and 2 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 9.1 fantasy points here tonight. Now, we didn't pick Mookie Betts yesterday because he was facing a lefty pitcher, and he doesn't bat as well versus lefties. It's a pretty big difference with Mookie Betts, 32% difference batting lefties versus righties. So we're going to play Mookie Betts versus righty pitchers, especially Tyler Glasnow, where he's batting a .357 batting average. So I think this is a nice spot for him to bounce back from that 0 yesterday. So I like Mookie Betts here versus Tyler Glasnow. The other outfielder that I like is Cody Bellinger. Batting against Tyler Glasnow, Cody Bellinger bats 14% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .958 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow is giving up a .576 OPS versus lefties. Now, Cody Bellinger is 3 for 4, batting a .750 batting average and a 3.8 OPS versus Glasnow, because all 3 of those hits were for home runs. So that is an amazing start versus a pitcher. 3 for 4 with 3 home runs. So Cody Bellinger is $8,800 DraftKings salary and the same price on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 2, 5, and 2 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.8 fantasy points here tonight. But with those kind of stats versus Tyler Glasnow, given it's only a 4 at-bat sample size, but to hit 3 home runs out of 4 at-bats, you gotta believe that Tyler Glasnow is gonna be scared to pitch to Cody Bellinger. So we'll see what happens, but I like Cody Bellinger here versus Tyler Glasnow. Okay, and if you're looking for a value play at the outfielder position, take a look at Jock Peterson with a 9% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Jock Peterson bats 23% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .799 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow is giving up a .576 OPS versus lefties. Now, Jock Peterson is 0 for 4 versus Glasnow, but he's only $5,600 DraftKings salary and $700 more on FanDuel. Averaging 6 fantasy points per game on the season, he scored 10, 5, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Jock Peterson here versus Tyler Glasnow.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.